All right, welcome in. Welcome in. It is Saturday night. What day is it? August 9th. Losing my track of my calendar here. Happy to have everybody here. My name is Nick. This is Main Event Fantasy. We are doing some best ball drafting right here in Underdog. That is what we do. If you're not familiar with what this is, Underdog Fantasy is the play similar to DraftKings, similar to Sleeper, all these other platforms, and where you're drafting your fantasy football teams. But this is where we draft best ball teams. Best ball, for those who are not sure, this is where you draft hundreds of teams if you'd like, or you draft one team. But these are drafts where you draft your team and you have no lineup changes made. You have no trades made, no waiver wires, none of that stuff during the regular season. You draft your team and the best players will play. And so we're going to go through that today by jumping into Best Ball Mania. I'm going to share that here in just a second. As a quick reminder, if you wouldn't mind, smash the like button for me, hit the subscribe, notification bell if you'd like. I will go live between 10 p.m. and midnight every day as we lead up to the season as best I can. And then I will get into doing some daily pick'ems and prop betting and things of that nature during daily fantasy betting when the regular season's going. And we'll kind of update how teams are performing as the year goes on. So I would appreciate a little love and support on the channel as we grow this in the future. So with that being said, let me start to pull this up here. So what we're doing when we do best ball drafts, right now we're going to do Best Ball Mania, $25 entry, maximum 150 drafts you can do. I've got 51 more shots at this thing. I've done already a ton of them. I'm over 400 drafts. Actually, I'm over 450 drafts at this point in the season. And we're able to do that because there is no time commitment. So $25 entry, we have to shoot for $2 million. That is first place. There are 672,000 other entrants. So I will walk you through as we go here why we do what we do and try and get an advantage in these tournaments. How it works is you have to be one of the top two in your pod of 12 teams for weeks 1 through 14. Then in weeks 15, you got to be the top one out of 13. Week 16, you have to beat 15 other teams, finish first. And then you get to a 539 seat final where you're fighting for a whole lot of cash. And don't fret. Hey, you don't make it there. A lot of teams don't, but you can still get a lot of money back and a lot of money earned. If you finished 112th place, you still get your money back. So it is worth taking a swing at. And this is kind of a breakdown of the tournament schedule and how they work here on Best Ball. If you're not familiar, this is a half PPR league. You get a quarterback that starts, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 flex, 1 tight end, and then 10 bench that you can mix up on your team. So we're going to jump right in to a Best Ball Mania draft. I'm going to try and do 2 tonight, and we'll see how it goes. If you're in here, got 3 more spots available. We'd love to have you draft with us live. There's always a good time to talk fantasy football and always a good time to have people that are members of the channel that are drafting live with us. So we'll see what pick we get, and we'll kind of roll from there. Tonight, we're going to do something fun. As we're drafting, when it becomes my pick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and look ahead and look at a couple of players. And we're going to try and let data tell the story as I pull up a which one should you go with, this guy or that guy type of episode. And we can compare what does the data say? Are we making the right pick or did we make the right pick? And if not, it's going to make us think differently for future drafts. So we'll see kind of how that pans out for us. So we did get the 110, which I love the back half of boards. I think it gives you a unique opportunity in the back to get 2 first-round talents between your first and second round picks. And it kind of gives you a little bit of mixing up on how draft boards fall, because picks 1 through 6 are pretty much the same. 6 guys. Hope everybody had a really good weekend so far and a good Saturday. Week 1 of the NFL preseason is in full force, and a lot of things have happened. Unfortunately, I did see that Tyjae Spears got carted off the field. I don't know the extent of his injury yet, but I think we've got a good amount of him in drafts, and that stinks. That's really the first piece of bad news that has negatively impacted how I've been drafting this year. So that kind of stinks. That might hurt a bunch of my teams. But when you're drafting over 450 teams so far, and probably we'll get to over 700 before the season starts, let's hope that it does minimal damage to us in the long run. So the draft starts out: Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson at 4. Usually at 10, we get a little bit of variety here to choose from. And we'll see what kind of comes back to us. Jefferson at 5. I'm going to assume Jahmyr Gibbs goes at 6. And he does. So we'll see what comes back. And then I'm going to make my selection based on what I know for the first 2 rounds. And we're going to do a his and, this guy or that guy comparison. And we'll see if I was making the right decisions. Nico Collins goes at 7. Neighbors at 8. See what the Golden Bull here does. CMC would be my choice at 10 if he's there. And he is, because he chose Henry. So we'll take CMC at 10. And then we'll see what comes back around to us at 15. Be kind of crazy if Puka fell all the way to 15, but I don't think I'm going to see that happening. I don't think he would get past Bucky Plays. But he is a badge drafter. I'm assuming he's not going to let that kind of value go. Whoa. Sorry for the young. Trying to keep my energy up. And Puka goes at 12. Jay here is just letting it go all the way down to the wire here. He goes Puka and then ASB, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Bucky goes Brock Bowers at 14, a little bit of a stretch there. So we could take Genty or London or Thomas, and I'm actually going to go Drake London here. So here's what I want to do. Let's start with the pick that I just did on the first round here. So I took McCaffrey. When you get to this end of the draft, it's kind of the McCaffrey, Achane, Henry type of range. So let's just start out by taking a look at McCaffrey versus Achane last year. So let me pull up some stats and read them off so you can kind of get an idea. And we'll see, do we think that McCaffrey or Achane statistically might be the right idea? So we know that McCaffrey did not play much last year. So let's kind of toss that out a little bit. He only played 4 games. Historically, McCaffrey has finished as the running back 4, 2, 1, 2, 1 in the 5 seasons he was healthy. So the guy's been a top 5 running back in the 5 seasons he's healthy. Taking last year out, he was a running back 1 in 2023, running back 2 in 2022. His snap share averages 75%. 14 touchdowns last year, 8 the year before. His average yards per attempt is about 5 when you're looking at that. And then in those years he's healthy, this is where he really is a differentiator. His target share is anywhere from 19.5 to 21, almost 22%. It is elite level target share in the passing game. 67 receptions and 85 receptions in the last couple of years if we take out 2024. So just looking at some of those stats, and then let's look at what Achane did last year. Last year, he was the running back 5, really solid. He only had a 63% snap share. So theoretically, if he had a 75 to 80% snap share, would he be well over rank 5? Very likely, could be. He only had 6 touchdowns in last year. His average yards per average run is 4.5, so a little less than McCaffrey. And then his receiving, he had 78 receptions with a 15.6 target share. So really when I look at this, to me, Achane could outpace McCaffrey. I don't think he's peaked yet. So realistically, the way you look at it, I think McCaffrey has the ability, obviously, to have a higher snap share. I think you're really looking and comparing to say, hey, if Achane were to get more carries, which he could this year, if he becomes more of a bell cow guy and keeps his receiving upside, he actually could crush this year. And I think we need to get a whole lot more of him. I would argue Achane might be the better pick than McCaffrey based on the data we have here, because his upside could, I don't know, we've seen him peak yet, right? So tough decision to go with either one, but I don't think you can go wrong by grabbing either guy. All right, we're coming back up on the clock here in the 3rd round. Let's see what comes our way. Waiting on the golden bowl here. He goes Tep McMillan. This is a weird draft. Yeah, very weird draft. I'm going to go ahead and take Lamar Jackson as our elite level quarterback here with pick 3. We get him at pick 34, about 3 or 4 picks past ADP. He's going to pick 30 right now. So we've gotten a little bit of ADP value on McCaffrey, a little bit on Lamar, and about right where he's supposed to be for Drake London. So ideally here, JSN would be our pick, but I don't know what Bucky wants to do. He does not have a wide receiver yet, and he goes JSN, which is the right decision. So I'm going to go ahead. I don't want to fall behind, and I'm going to scroll down a little bit and grab George Pickens. Don't know if that's the right decision or not. So let's talk about it. So we had an option to do George Pickens, Rashee Rice, Terry McLaurin, in that range. Let's take a quick peek at Rice, McLaurin, and Pickens. Pickens is a little harder to predict because he's in a new situation. But Rice, last year only played in 4 games. His rookie year he played 16. Even in his rookie year, he was 27th, right? 27th ranked wide receiver. His snap share was only 59%. In the 4 games he played last year, he was 62%. Obviously, very small sample size, but the data would tell you that he's not really showing elite level production yet. But because it's such a small sample size, and maybe you thought you got enough, that it was worth looking at, because in those 4 games last year, the reason it averages out that way is because he had a week 4 when he got hurt, he had no points. So you kind of rule that one out. But weeks 1, 2, and 3, he was wide receiver 14, 16, and 3. Snap share went to 81%, 83%, 73%. So it definitely increased from where he was at in 2023. So that's why people are seeing the upside there. His target share was 33%, 27%, and 38%. They were feeding him before he got hurt. And if they're going to continue to feature him, that's part of the reason why I think people really have such a high upside on Rashee Rice. So let's go to McLaurin then. With McLaurin, he was the wide receiver 7 last year. He's never finished inside of the top 10 wide receivers yet until last year. And his snap share has almost always been higher. Last year was his lowest snap share at 84%. He was 98, 93, 90, 90, 86. He's been slowly lowering his snap share as the year's gone on. The number of targets he's received has gone from 134, 130, 120, 132, 117 last year. He did catch more balls last year than the last few years behind, but it's about the same. What made him good last year was his touchdowns. He had 13 touchdowns last year compared to 7, 4, 5, 5, 4. His yards per route run is average at best. So when I look at Terry McLaurin, I look at a guy who's always on the field. He's always healthy, but he is getting into his age 30 season. And we're getting to a point with Terry McLaurin where I don't think that – oh, hold on. We're about to be on the clock. Sorry. Hang tight. Henderson goes. We're going to grab my man Jalen Waddle as our third wide receiver. I actually really wanted to get Zay Flowers there to pair up with Lamar Jackson, but it was not meant to be. Rome goes. Deebo Samuel goes. So we've got RJ Harvey sitting on the board, Olave, Pearsall. Y'all know, if you know anything about it, my man Sticky Ricky is a guy that I'm in on, so we're going to grab him here for our fourth wide receiver. And let me pop this back around. So, Edward, how are you, sir? You got 2 offers on the table from your members. What do you got? Let us know what they are. Happy to talk about it. While we're waiting, just going back to Terry McLaurin, hopefully you understand why I'm out on Terry McLaurin. Not out completely. I like him when I can stack him with Jaden Daniels, but I think he's getting older. His snap share is going down. And the only reason he had a top 10 finish last year, which is the only year he had one, was because he managed to more than double, actually triple. He tripled his touchdowns last year than any other year in his career. And then you look at the fact that they have more rookies on the team. They brought in Deebo Samuel. I think we're drafting McLaurin at his ceiling already where he's going in drafts. And I don't want guys that are already at their what I see as their cap. So I'm not getting a whole lot of Terry McLaurin. So now that we kind of understand Terry versus Rice, in an island there, I would take Rashee Rice over Terry McLaurin. However, we know Rice is probably going to be suspended for 6 games and do some jail time. We don't know exactly when yet. So let's go over to George Pickens and understand why I chose George Pickens over both of those guys where I drafted. Last year, he had 81% snap share, 88, 77. He has never finished a year yet, all 3 in Pittsburgh, better than wide receiver 30. Not good. Part of that reason is his touchdowns have been horrible, 4, 5, and 3. His yards per route run were average at best. And his targets have been about the same, around 100. So he's really not getting a lot of yards per route run, which is bad sign. He's not getting red zone opportunities in Pittsburgh, bad sign. And his snap share last year was only 81%, bad sign. He only had 2 top 10 finishes last year in terms of weeks. So when you compare all 3, Rice is probably the better choice, obviously at receiver for that where I picked him. However, with those 6-game suspension, we can't pick him. So not the best option there. All right. Edward says trade offer 1. Trade Loveland and Tank Bigsby, and I get James Conner. So hold on one second. Let me flip this board around, and then we will come back to that. Give me 1 second. Mahomes goes at 80. I don't really know what this Golden Bowl guy is doing. He is drafting like he really doesn't like money, is what I'm going to say. I'm going to go ahead and grab Isaiah Pacheco here, ADP 73, and we're going to get him at 82. Feels good to let him fall to us here. We will take the value, scoop that up, and we'll be looking at our next pick on the board. See what Bucky here and Jakku. I like Sam Laporta, but he goes. Jaden Reed's good. He goes. We're on the clock. I don't have a lot of Josh Downs. A little bit of value here. I guess we'll go ahead and grab Downs. I don't have a ton of him. And he'll be our 5th wide receiver. All right, let me pull this back around. Now let's get back and talking about my man's question here. So Edward said, trade Loveland and Bigsby and you get James Conner. So Edward, tell me about your league. Is it just a regular redraft league? Is it a dynasty league? Is it PPR? Give me a little bit of information on the league. How many teams? That'll kind of help me get an idea of the best idea. I mean, in general, I think Connor is going to regress. So it's PPR 12-man. Is it dynasty or just regular redraft league? Regular redraft. Okay. So it kind of depends on how the rest of your team is built, right? Like I would say in a vacuum, I would rather have James Conner over Tank Bigsby by far. However, I do think he's going to lose touches this year to Trey Benson. I've been drafting a lot of Trey Benson in my best ball leagues that you'll see out here that I'm streaming live. But if you believe strongly in Loveland and you don't have a decent tight end, then maybe you stay there. But honestly, in that trade scenario, I would probably just go ahead and take James Conner and let someone else have Loveland or Bigsby if you have another option at tight end. I like Conner better. And some people will tell you that I don't even think Bigsby is going to be a guy all year because they've got really a 3-man. I think they're going to try and get Tootin involved. ETN is still there. Right now they're splitting reps, ETN and Tank Bigsby. So it can go a lot of different ways. It's very volatile, but I think you know what you're going to get with James Conner, and at the goal line, I think they're going to feature James Conner. So, and quite honestly, I think Arizona's got a better offense than Jacksonville, but we'll see how that plays out. So I like James Conner better. I do think there's nice upside in Loveland, but see, in a redraft league, I like rookies like Loveland to be on my bench. I don't want them to have to be the starter because you don't know what you're going to get, right? And where obviously we assume he's going to do a good job, but look at all the weapons in Chicago. He might be the 5th guy in that offense in the pecking order, and he's got competition at his own position because Loveland's still got oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank? All of a sudden, he's still got the other tight end there that they liked and did well last year. So I would definitely take James Conner in that scenario and smile and say thank you. Oh, and you have Bauer starting right now? Absolutely. Then in that case, not even a question. I would dump Loveland and Bigsby, get James Conner, and I wouldn't even think about it. All right, we're hoping here we get Mark Andrews to stack up with Lamar Jackson here and be our first tight end. That would be an ideal scenario here, but this Golden Bowl guy has done some weird stuff, so who knows what he's going to do. I'm hoping he just really doesn't want to take Mark Andrews. If not, we'll have to pivot. And he took Drake May. Perfect. So we'll get Mark Andrews, pair him up with Lamar Jackson as our first tight end. Love how that played out for us here. and feels like a pretty solid start to this draft. So we've got some options. We can go Dak Prescott, second quarterback. We can grab a running back here. And actually, I think I'm going to go ahead and do the double stack instead. I'm going to move Bateman up as our 6th wide receiver. Double stack Lamar. So I have Bateman and Andrews now double stack with Lamar. That feels pretty good. Thanks. He's got another offer. He trades Justin Jefferson and Bucky Irving for Gibbs. If this is a redraft league as well, I'm going to say no. Absolutely not. You've got 2 phenomenal talents already with Justin Jefferson, Bucky Irving. I like Gibbs a lot, but there are people that would probably take Bucky Irving for Gibbs straight up, or something else, but I just wouldn't do it. I wouldn't touch. I mean, you need to keep Jefferson and Irving. The value's too high. You can get more. Now, if you really want Gibbs, you can get Gibbs and Irving, as a trade, or Gibbs for Jefferson. I think straight up would be better. I think Bucky Irving in that trade alone is just, they're fleecing you. If you're trying to get Gibbs and give them away, you're just giving away too much talent. Wouldn't do it. And that one's one of those other ones that I would say is definitely a no-brainer. Thanks for the advice. Helped a lot. Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. That's what we're here for. We're here to help. We enjoy drafting fantasy football teams. That's why I do this. I've been pretty successful, won a bunch of money over the last handful of years. And right now I'm doing best ball drafting. And if you're not familiar with that, that's why I'm able to draft hundreds of teams, because there's no waiver wires. There's no trades in best ball drafting. I do redraft leagues like you. I do dynasty teams. Been doing that for a decade plus. But best ball allows me to draft a ton of teams because there's no management. Your best players play automatically. It kind of allows you to, draft these teams in advance. All right. Speaking of drafting teams, let's see if there's other players we want to take a look at in comparison that we had an opportunity to take. How did I not see Coleman? They must have been further down. Yeah, they were. They were after that. Okay. I want to see what happens when we get really close together and we're debating the one guy versus the other, and as to figuring out which ones we should go with. That's kind of where the fun is for me, to make sure, hey, am I making the right decision? Did I pick the right guy? And I'm talking about based on statistics. Who is the right guy? Because that'll help us drive our future drafts. All right. So Scadabo's still here for some reason. And if he's here, pick 130. That would be great. If you did not hear, I'm going to just repeat again for those who didn't know. Update on Tyjae Spears. He left the stadium on crutches. Let's see here. Boarded the bus on crutches in a walking boot. He needed a cart to go to the locker room after suffering a right leg injury. After the game, he said he likely has an ankle injury but needs further evaluation. The initial diagnosis is a high ankle sprain. Julius Chestnut or Khalil Mullings would be asked to step up if he can't go in some point of the regular season. So interesting. Sounds like he might be okay. All right, we're going to get Cam Scadabo here. Well past ADP. Goes at 111. We're going to get him at 130. Don't know what happened there. Don't know what's going on with this room, but we're just going to say thank you. And then we are running out of quarterback options here, and I do have Drake London. So I think we're going to scroll on down slightly, grab Michael Penix to pair him up with Drake London, and that feels really nice there. And we'll be done with 2 quarterbacks, because when we take an elite quarterback, you want to stop at 2, usually, unless you get extreme values, because you're counting on your one you drafted earlier, your elite, to do most of the work anyway. So, you don't want to waste that extra pick on a quarterback if they're not going to get any points added to your team. So the value just won't be there. And we want to maximize our value. All right, Kyle Pitts goes right after us. Would have been fun if he would have made it all the way back, but I didn't see that happening. Ray Davis goes. Blue goes. I kind of want to take a peek at a couple of guys in that wide receiver tier that I keep taking a lot of. Whew, man, that's what happens when I have these long days. We just had my 2-year-old's birthday party today, so it's been a very long day. And it was a fun time, good time. He had a blast. Everybody had fun. So that's what's important. I want to look at Waddle compared to Zay Flowers. Let's do that comparison real quick because they typically go near each other in drafts. So let's start with, let's see here. Let's start with Waddle. They go back-to-back in drafts, and you're trying to figure out who. One thing you can tell is Waddle is the wide receiver 2 because in his offense, Tyreek Hill is the 1. And then Zay Flowers is the 1 in Baltimore. Now, last year was definitely a down year for Waddle. He only finished as a wide receiver 3 once, a 12 once, and a 16 once. Otherwise, he was absolutely a ghost. Had a terrible year, ranked 46th in wide receiver. The year prior, he was 34. His rookie year, he was 13. The second year was 8. So you would think that he was only going to get better after what a great start. His rookie year, 13th ranked wide receiver. Then he went to wide receiver 8, and then he's kind of just disappeared the last 2 years. One thing that really hurts that is touchdowns. He went from 6 to 8 to 4 to 2 last year. And last year, his yards per route run was 1.66. Pretty disgusting. If we assume that he had an 81% snap share, so the snap share was good. However, he didn't get a lot of targets. He only had 83 targets, even on that snap share. His yards per route run was poor. He had no touchdowns. He had a really bad year, which should scare people into saying, hey, why am I taking this guy? 1 second. Draft is coming back around to us. All right. Let's keep this Atlanta train going, I think. We're going to take Tyler Algier as our 4th running back here. When stacking players, you absolutely can stack your running back with players. You don't have to be afraid to do that. Let's see. I'm going to scroll down just a smidge here and grab Zach Ertz as our 2nd tight end. And we'll roll on down here. So kind of going back to what I was saying, Waddle had a terrible year, but really the year before that wasn't good either. So he really doesn't look like a great pick where he's going right now. Obviously, his talent profile says he's the kind of receiver you want if the offense can figure it out. He's on the field a good amount. However, he's not been that productive. He's just not done well. Now let's look at Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers last year had 2 weeks inside the top 10. He had a wide receiver 3 and a 6 finish. Then he had a 13, a 14, and a 12. Otherwise, he was really not consistent in terms of where he finished. He ended up finishing as the wide receiver 25 overall, 76% snap share, 116 targets, only 4 touchdowns. His yards per route run was 2.33, which is okay. So when we look at Zay Flowers, the difference between the two, so they're going right next to each other in drafts, right? You're trying to decide, do I want Waddle or do I want Flowers? The answer, really based on the data, should be Flowers for a couple of reasons. One is With Flowers, he's the wide receiver 1 in his offense. Waddle is the 2. That's one. That's the big one. Number 2 is Zay Flowers is getting better. Obviously, he's only been in the league 2 years. Waddle is actually getting worse. We know Zay Flowers has a MVP quarterback. Jalen Waddle has a concussion head case quarterback who, when he is healthy, is generally been pretty accurate, but his health is a question. So it just seems to me, based on the numbers, based on the number of targets alone, we know Zay Flowers has been targeted more often in the last 2 years than Jalen Waddle has. And he has outperformed him in his wide receiver finish than he has. So when you're sitting there looking at both of them on the board and you're going, do I want Waddle or Zay Flowers? The answer should be, by data, Zay Flowers. The only time you want to look at it differently might be if you are just trying to balance your portfolio, or if you want to, you think you're going to get a Tua thing or a bring back, etc. JJ Walsh, how are you, my friend? It is going good tonight. How are you on this beautiful Saturday evening? You do anything exciting today? All right, the board's coming back around. Let's see how we finish this team out. I really like how this team is kind of shaken out, if I'm being honest. Got to see if we want to move on down here a little bit. We've got Baltimore in Atlanta. We're getting one more running back for sure. One more tight. I think it's going to be a 2-5-8-3 build is what I'm thinking. I like my running back room already, so this is where I don't mind taking a flyer on a guy like Woody Marks. Not counting on him, but you know, you never know what's going to happen, and maybe he'll have a role in an offense. So we'll just take a flyer on him. Although I don't feel like I need him. I'm not planning on counting on him when I have the 4 running backs that I have. And then here, once we get past this tight end range, I feel like there's really nobody left. So I'm going to grab a tight end here, and I'm going to grab one of my favorites here, but we're going to look at some of these guys in just a second. I'm going to grab Chig. Athletic tight end, and that'll be our last tight end. So we've got, scrolling on down here, we got a couple more picks. They will both be wide receivers to finish out our draft. So I'm glad we did the Waddle Zay Flowers piece, which makes me want to challenge myself because I know I have a lot of both guys, but it looks like Zay Flowers is definitely the right decision. Let's look at what I just did. I took Okonkwo over a bunch of tight ends in that area. So let me pull up some stats on some of those late round tight ends, and let's compare some of those guys and say, hey, should we be going with Okonkwo, or should have we gone with somebody else? And I did like a lot of those guys that were there. So we can look at Cade Otton and Chig Okonkwo. Sorry. So with Cade Otton, last year, he didn't play the whole season. He only played 14 games, and he was still the tight end 14. He had a 93% snap share. The last 2 years, he's had 93 and 96% snap share. The year prior, 2023, he did play in all 17 games, finishes the tight end 18. He's been getting better every year. His targets have gone up every year. What has kind of held him back is his touchdowns. He's only had 4 the last 2 years, so that kind of preventing him from breaking out, so to speak. He's not getting a lot of yards per route run, only 1.4. So that tells me that he's not really a yards after catch guy, but he's getting enough volume to be relevant, even though he's not getting a ton of touchdowns. So volume and getting a little bit better connection there is part of the reason why Cade Otton's a good option. Getting him as a tight end this late in drafts is that he's going as tight end 23. He's being drafted in a good place where you're going to get a lot of value by grabbing him there. So I feel good about that. Now, let's look down at Chig. He's played 3 years in the league as well. He has never missed a game. He's played all 17 games the last 3 years. He finished as the tight end 25, 19, and 21. However, here's what I think is a big difference maker. He finished a little bit worse than him last year. However, his snap share is much lower, 61%, 65%, and 36%. So therefore, his targets are lower. His yards per route run was actually the same as Cade Otton's was last year. So part of the reason is that Titans have not thrown the ball a lot. But he's not getting enough targets anyway. But what he's doing with those targets matters. He also does not have a lot of touchdowns. 3 in 1 year, 1 in another, 2 in another. The difference being Chig profiles as a more athletic tight end. So I like the explosiveness opportunity that he has. He did have 3 games last year in the top 10 wide receiver. Actually, I'm sorry, 4 weeks where he was a top 10 tight end. And then if we go back up and look at I lost him. Hold on. Sorry. Give me 1 second. Let's go back up and look at Cade Otton. Cade Otton last year had 5 weeks. So they both had decent opportunities, and I like both of them where they were going. So I think you should really draft them both, I guess is what I'm saying. Sorry, 1 second. We ended up with Jack Bech and Torrey Horton to finish off the draft. So I would not have drafted Jack Bech here if I was paying attention. So I screwed that up. All right. So our team is Lamar Jackson, Michael Penix. Running back, we have Christian McCaffrey, Isaiah Pacheco, Cam Scatterbo, Tyler Algier, Woody Marks. Wide receiver, Drake London, George Pickens, Jalen Waddle, Ricky Pearsall, Josh Downs, Rashad Bateman, Jack Bech, Torrey Horton. Tight end, we have Mark Andrews, Zach Ertz, and Chikakonkwo. We double stacked Lamar Jackson with Bateman and Andrews. And then we have Michael Penix stacked up with Tyler Algier and Drake London as options there. So not a bad team. Don't love it. Don't hate it. Definitely could win some money with this team. So we'll see how it shakes out. All right, we're going to get into one more Best Ball Mania draft. If you want to join with us, I'll give you a brief countdown. This is on Underdog Fantasy. Again, the link is in the description below. If you want to come and draft with us in the future, use my promo code PERFECT216 when you sign up. And we're trying to go for $2 million. This is the largest fantasy football tournament in the world. And $2 million to first, $1 million for second, $500,000 to third, and so on. A lot of money in this Best Ball Mania tournament. We've got 50 more shots at it. Maximum drafts is 150. So we are going to enter this tournament. All right, waiting on one more person. And then we'll see what pick we get. I'm going to try and continue to stream every night my Best Ball drafts. My Best Ball Mania drafts. All right, we get pick 3. I like it. Whoops. All right, I kind of want to continue to look at some other guys that were down here. Elijah Arroyo is a rookie, so we don't know what his upside is yet. Another good reason to take him. Mike Gesicki has fallen a ton because we now have Noah Fant in the same tight end room as Mike Gesicki. So he's dropped a lot. Mason Taylor's in that area, and he's a rookie. So there's a lot of unknown down there, and I like mixing all of those tight ends in. So I do want to look at Zach Ertz. With Zach Ertz, he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks. 5, 6, 7, 8. Last year where he was a top 10 tight end. So Zach Ertz definitely is a tier break before you get into the rest of those guys. He finished as the tight end 7 last year. His issue has been not being able to stay healthy prior to last year. Last year, he played all those games. Now, part of the reason he did well is he did get 7 touchdowns last year. Touchdowns matter in the tight end. That's what you want out of your tight end. You want somebody who can fall into the end zone. All right, we're on the board real quick. We're either going to get Bijan or CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb it is. So we're going to start this draft with CeeDee Lamb. I like it. So kind of going back to what I was saying about Zach Ertz, and in the tight end position, when you're getting tight ends, you need them to score touchdowns, generally speaking. He did get 91 targets, which is a significant amount of targets. So I think Zach Ertz is a great pick, and was only in 69% of the snaps. So the only concern I think I have for Zach Ertz is, will he lose some snaps anymore to Ben Sinnott, who, if I look at last year, did not get a ton of snaps. He mixed it up throughout the year, throughout the season, didn't do a whole lot. He was a rookie, 26% snap share. So I don't know, will they see more in him in the offseason to take more snaps away from Zach Ertz and make him less viable? I wouldn't be worried about not drafting him. I think he's fine. All right, let's turn this draft board around. I do find it funny that CeeDee Lamb's getting pulled up. He was going in picks 5 and 6 in April and May, and even in June. And then when they said Justin Jefferson had a little Achilles issue showing up, they decided that everybody's going to freak out, and they've been pushing him down boards and pulling CeeDee Lamb up. And I think either one of those guys is a great pick. The guy I can't figure out, which I understand why if you value him there, which is Derrick Henry. I don't think he makes sense as a round 1 running back. I think he's a round 2 running back, and I will take him there happily after Achane, after CMC, after Genty. J Money Rock got a pretty unique start. He ended up getting Amon-Ra St. Brown and Puka. Puka fell all the way to the second round, which does not happen very often. So pretty rare start for him. Kind of jealous there. Maybe we'll get something rare coming back to us. Bowers goes at 16. That's a little early. London goes. I would love it if A.J. Brown fell to us. It won't happen, but in a dream it would. And A.J. Brown goes at 19. So we're not going to get any strong value here. If you've heard me talk about Ladd McConkey, you know that I don't like drafting him in the second round. And since they signed Keenan Allen, I more and more don't want to draft him in the second round. So we can go Jonathan Taylor or Chase Brown. I've gotten more Taylor than Brown, so I'm just going to choose Brown here just to balance out exposures only. I see them both very similarly. I would rather have them both in round 3, but Taylor does not make it to the third round, and Chase Brown has been in the third round. So I'm only taking Chase Brown to kind of break the tie here. But you know what? For fun, what we'll do after I make this next selection is we're going to compare Chase Brown and Jonathan Taylor. Josh Jacobs goes 25. All right. So on the board, Devontae Adams goes a little earlier than normal. So we can go Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison, Josh Allen. That's kind of what we're looking at here. I think we'll go ahead and just grab Trey McBride. So let's now, let me turn the board around so you can kind of see what it's looking like. And then let's talk a little bit about, what did I say we're going to do? Chase Brown and Jonathan Taylor. Let's do that. I don't hear anybody saying anything bad about Chase Brown ever. It's kind of crazy. So let's look at last year. Last year, he had 7 weeks where he was a top 10 running back. When we look at his overall rank, he was the 10th ranked overall running back in PPR scoring. That's where he finished. He only had a 65% snap share, and that's because he was losing snaps, especially early on, to Zach Moss and others, and he wasn't seen as the 3-down back at the time. He still managed 990 yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground. The 7 touchdowns on the ground is not elite by any means. It's actually undervalued. Under. But he is getting 4.3 yards per attempt, which isn't bad. What makes him really valuable is the fact that he gets a lot of the receiving work. He had 65 targets last year for 360 yards, and he ran 203 routes. And 203 routes as a running back is exceptional. And if his snap share goes up, and he's already the 10th ranked running back, you could see a breakout season from Chase Brown. Now, let's go to Jonathan Taylor. With Jonathan Taylor, last year he had 1, 2, 3, 4 top 10 finishes, so not as many. However, he did have a couple more on the bubble, 2 12s, a 13, a 14. And the kicker was everybody loves him because of what he did in the fantasy football playoffs, the best ball playoffs. Week 16, he was the running back 1. Week 17, he was the running back 1. Week 18, he was the running back 5. Now, week 18, it's done at that point. But when you're in the semifinals and finals, if you had Jonathan Taylor last year, he won you a ton of money, because he crushed it in the playoffs. He finished as the running back 12. He only played in 14 games, with that being said. So he had an 80% snap share, 1,400 yards, 11 touchdowns, and he also ran 202 routes. So they ran the same amount of routes. He just got less targets, less receptions when he ran those routes. But he definitely ran the ball more, was on the field more, but he almost had the same. He was only ranked 2 places off, but on the field more. So, hold on, 1 second. Let me bring this around. The draft's coming around to us. Sorry. Jaden Daniels is still on the board, and we are going to get him ADP of 39. We're going to get him at 46. Feels great to get an elite quarterback here. Oof. We'll see what comes back to us here. Ideally, I'm going to go wide receiver. It's just a matter of which one. Oh, excuse me. Terry McLaurin goes, so we will not be stacking him with Jaden Daniels. But if you listen to what I said during my last draft, McLaurin is not a favorite target of mine. I am underweight McLaurin for good reason. Metcalf's an option here. Smith. These are probably my favorite 2 options. All right. So Devonta Smith is here. I'm going to make him my second wide receiver on this team. So we're going to start our draft with Jaden Daniels, the quarterback, Chase Brown, running back, CeeDee Lamb, Devonta Smith at wide receiver, and Trey McBride at tight end. Love it. Feels really good. A nice, even start. And I like kind of how it fell into our lap there. So just kind of talking back everything I said about Jonathan Taylor and Chase Brown. I want both. I want pieces of both. I think they're great. Normally you're getting Chase Brown in round 3, although he's been pulled up lately into round 2. And Jonathan Taylor you're getting in round 2. He almost never falls to round 3. I like both guys in round 3. Whoever is later is who I'd rather pick. So my preference would be to take Chase Brown in round 3 instead of Jonathan Taylor in round 2, but I think they're both great picks. The difference being is that Chase Brown's on the come up. Jonathan Taylor already has a number 1 running back finish in his outcomes. Neither one have been fully healthy at all times of the year since their careers have started. The difference being that Chase Brown will definitely catch more passes. If he gets in the end zone more this year, has a higher snap share, I think overall Chase Brown has the higher ceiling this year. So I think Chase Brown in the 3rd is a better value than Jonathan Taylor in the 2nd, just based on stats. All right, let's see how the draft comes around to us here. Alvin Kamara goes with Harvey. We want to win $2 million, right? That's kind of the whole goal. Jerry Jeudy goes. James Conner goes. I still think it's interesting that James Conner is still going as high as he is. I kind of get it, but with all the talk about him losing snaps to Trey Benson, I'm kind of surprised Benson hasn't risen more and Conner hasn't dropped more. But maybe more good news, and we'll see. My man, Fantasy Dog, how are you? Good to see you, my friend. It's been a good Saturday. Had our 2-year-old's birthday party today. So it was a good day. We're just in here trying to crush fantasy football drafts, and nothing special there, right? Just another day at the office. Feeling good about our drafts today, though. So here we're going to hope that Deebo Samuel comes back to pair him up with Jaden Daniels. That would be ideal. If that happens, I will feel absolutely exceptional about how this draft has started. And I'll explain why in just a minute. And it does. This is beautiful. So we stack him up with Daniels. Week 17, CeeDee Lamb and the Dallas Cowboys play Washington week 17. So we have a high bring back there. Chase Brown, Cincinnati play Arizona week 17. We have a little bring back there, even though we don't have a quarterback yet for that. I absolutely love how this team has started. This team is a lot of fun. No major values. Daniels is the biggest faller. We got him 7 picks past ADP, which doesn't happen often. Dunder Mifflin takes Sam Laporta. It's okay. We weren't really looking at him. Matthew Golden goes at 74. I was kind of looking at Matthew Golden. I do feel like we're slowly evaporating wide receivers here, and I've only got 3. So we're going to grab Jaden Reed as our 4th wide receiver on our team here. So feels good. Good start. I like it. Like this team a lot. Let's kind of look at a couple of other guys that go near each other. So, Fantasy Dog, I've been doing this comparison tonight, kind of looking at data and seeing which, guys that go near each other. Why would you take one versus the other? I think that's kind of a fun way to look at it. To challenge, I'm trying to challenge myself to see if I'm picking the right guys, or is it in my head? Fantasy Dog says analysts talk about letting the draft come to them and drafting like you're right, but I think you're top shelf when it comes to implementation. Hey, thank you, my friend. I really, really appreciate that. I try to do what I say I'm going to do. I have noticed, though, like I was looking at exposure rates. I have a good amount of Zay Flowers and I have a good amount of Waddle. But as I was reviewing them, I think it makes tremendously more sense when they go back-to-back to get Zay Flowers over Jalen Waddle. And I don't even think it's close. So I kind of learned today that I need to change a little bit of rankings, and I need to work on that a little bit. So I'm going to continue to do that here, and I'm going to continue to look at my exposure rates. We only have, after this one, we've got 49 more Best Ball Mania drafts available to us. So I want to make sure that I am really cracking down on getting out of my own way. I don't want to continue to just look at and say, hey, you know what? I believe in this guy. He's a great talent. Let me keep drafting him. If maybe I haven't done enough, double checking of my own data. Sorry, just killed a bug. There's like a fly in my wall here. All right. Higgins goes 8-3. Excuse my eyeballs here. It's been a long day. All right. Let's see what's going to come rolling on back around. Kind of trying to decide how I want to play this. I think it's more important that I walk out of this pick if they're both there with Warren. If I can get Warren and Murray, it would be great. But if I can only get one, I think Warren's more important here. Although this wide receiver avalanche has kind of been scary. I think I'm going to go ahead and get Jaylen Warren. I'm getting scared by how much Jaylen Warren I have. If he gets injured, he's going to cripple 20+% of my teams. Not cripple, but definitely put a dent into it. So I need my man, Jaylen Warren, to be an absolute stud this year because I've drafted a ton of him. He's my most drafted running back right now. Fantasy long day. Yeah, man, I get it. Some days are just seem like they're longer than others, you know. Pittman goes. So we've got some options here coming up that I'm perfectly comfortable with. We can go wide receiver. We can go Kyler Murray. I'd be happy with both. I'm starting to think I probably should just go with the wide receiver because our next pick's at 118. And I don't know that we're going to even have a wide receiver we like here. So as much as I like Kyler Murray, I think I'm going to be in trouble if I don't get another receiver. So I'm going to go ahead and go Keon Coleman here, which there's a little bit of a week 17 bring back here, Buffalo, Philly, week 17. So maybe that works out pretty good. So I'm hoping I'm making the right choices, right? Got to think ahead, trying to stay 2 steps ahead. Face docs, it does mean they're hurt all year. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. They could just miss a few games and everything would be fine, right? If you didn't hear today, I was just talking about it earlier that Tajay Spears got carted off the field and then he left on the team bus in a walking boot and crutches. They haven't said exactly how much time he's going to miss, but I know I've drafted a really good amount of Spears as well. And so that kind of stings. That's really my first injury or news this offseason or this preseason that has negatively affected how I've drafted. All the other news has either benefited me or not been really much of an impact based on how I've been drafting. So that Tajay Spears news is probably the only news that's really kind of popped on me. Fantasy Ducks is going to draft a couple puppy threes here in a minute. Yeah, I've been getting into a bunch of puppy threes today on my phone when I've had some time. You've been getting a lot of Pollard. I do not have a lot of Pollard, and now that this Tajay Spears thing's in, I kind of want to get a little more. But I don't know. I'm afraid now he's going to get pulled up really high, and I'm not going to like it. You know, like I'm a little nervous by that. All right. We are 6 picks away. I like Dak Prescott as a potential second quarterback here. I don't have a ton of him. I'd like to get more of him. When we're done here, I want to look at Zach Charbonnet versus Scatterbo. Now, we don't know what Scatterbo is. He's a rookie, but I want to see what Charbonnet is because they go next to each other, right? Kind of want to see what we're looking at in this range. Well, that might not be a fair comparison because we don't know what Scatterbo is going to be. Palmer goes. Actually, I know there's a big wide receiver drop off, and I like Bateman, so I'm actually going to go Rashad Bateman here, and then I'll let one of these two, Scatterbo or Ramondre Stevenson come back to me and play that game. Play a little ADP game. I mean, because if they're both gone, honestly, I'd still be fine taking even Ray Davis. Would be a fine option. Chargers, Jacksonville, Houston. All right, we're going to need either Ramondre or Ray Davis here. Is how we're going to work this one out. All right. I'm going to go ahead and take Ramondre Stevenson as our third running back. So far we got Jaden Daniels at quarterback, Chase Brown, Jaylen Warren, Ramondre Stevenson at running back, CeeDee Lamb, Devonta Smith, Deebo Samuel, Jaden Reed, Keon Coleman, Rashad Bateman, a wide receiver, Trey McBride at tight end. We have correlated Jaden Daniels with Deebo Samuel, and we have a Week 17 bring back with Dallas. We do have a couple of other random Week 17 bringbacks with Cincinnati and Arizona, a Buffalo Philly. So we have some unique. Actually, we have Green Bay Baltimore. I didn't even realize that one. So a whole lot of Week 17 bringback pieces. Feels like a pretty solid team. Fantasy Dogs to 21% Pollard out of 348 drafts. Sorry about Spears. Yeah, I think Spears might be okay. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, the guys behind Spears are nothing. So if we get more news that Spears is going to miss a lot of time, they said it was like a high ankle sprain, which means he might even be back by week 1, which is great. But if we find out he's gonna miss 3 to 6 weeks or whatever that's gonna look like, I'm gonna be getting a whole lot more Pollard for sure, because he'll just become more of a bell cow guy, and where he's going, he'll just be a huge value. So I'm gonna need to get more Pollard, whether I like him or not. I do want to look at Charbonnet and Stevenson, actually. I think that's probably the better comparison to look at. So let me take a peek at that here while we're waiting for this to come back around. All right. Charbonnet. So last year, Charbonnet had 1, 2, 3 top 10 finishes. When we look at the season overall, he's the 25th ranked running back. We know he's not the starter. He had a 51% snap share. It's about the same as he was in his rookie year. 569 yards, 8 touchdowns. So part of his value last year came from the fact that he did get in the end zone 8 touchdowns for only being on the field 51% of the time. Yards per attempt, 4.2, which is pretty solid for a running back. And he did get himself 340 yards passing as a pass-catching running back, 6.5 yards per, and 305 routes run. Definitely a lot of value as a wide receiver or as a running back from a wide receiver perspective, and was able to run the ball in and get 8 rushing touchdowns. He definitely has some upside, and Kenneth Walker doesn't stay healthy that often. So I definitely like getting Charbonnet. I got a bunch last year. I'm going to keep getting him this year. All right. I'm going to go ahead and – so here's what I want to do. I'm going to take Javonte Williams and – whoops, almost unclicked him. I actually want Trevor Lawrence, but the reason I take Javonte here is because the people between me, the 2 teams between me, already have both 2 quarterbacks, and they're really short on running backs. So if I want both, the best chance I have is to take the running back first and let Lawrence come back to me, and that's a lot more likely. But instead, Dunder Mifflin here decides he needs 3 quarterbacks on his really crappy team. So we will move on, and we'll make it work. We're going to have to build out something here. So what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and take Trey Harris. We just auto-selected Trey Harris. Not what I was going to do, but he continues to plummet because of the Keenan Allen signing. Got him at 147, ADP 117. He's going to keep dropping. That was an accident. I couldn't decide. I probably was going to go Michael Penix there, if I'm being honest. So we'll hope that the fantasy football gods selected properly for me. Fantasy Duck says, I have a lot of sports injuries. No high ankle sprain sounds cumbersome. Yeah, it doesn't sound good. And when you're a running back, something tells me that you need your ankles. It's kind of a valuable body part. I just hope that, maybe it's something that they can heal up and it won't linger him all year, but I don't think that that's a good sign. So I'm definitely going to slow down, if not stop, with Spears drafting. And I've done that with a couple of other guys so far. Are you an engineer by trade? You are very, very perceptive and analytical, more than me, and that's a lot, sir. Definitely not an engineer by trade. Actually, so I have a unique background. So, I have a little bit of business background. That's kind of what I do now. I'm in food service and business, but I actually went to school for broadcasting and communications. I was an on-air DJ in a popular radio station in a major city, and then did that for a few years. And I was also on Fox 8 News and for about a year working on with cameras, actually, and doing some intern work. And then I was a financial advisor for a year or two before I moved into I was a business consultant for a corporation. I don't want to shout out company names and such. So, yeah. So I'd say my background is more in, I went to school officially for communications and business management and restaurant management. All right. We got to make something work here. We screwed up royally with our Trey Harris pick here. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to grab Gino here. Let me make sure I got my math right. I have 4 picks left. Perfect. One, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Okay. We're okay. I know what I want to do. We'll see if it all falls that way. But I have a plan. Ford goes, Eckler goes, Garendo goes, a little bit of a running back run here, likely goes. So we'll take Matthew Stafford. So we end up taking Geno Smith and Matthew Stafford, two quarterbacks here at the end. And now we're going to make it work. We have 2 more picks, I believe. Nope, I'm sorry, 3 more picks. So here's what the plan is. We are going to try and get 1 more tight end. And then 2 wide receivers. With the wide receivers, we have a couple of options. We can do we've got Trey Tucker, which is a Vegas option. Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington. Just looking to see if, Jack Besh is still there, but I really don't care for him at all. When I draft Jack Besh or Beck or whatever how you pronounce his name, it's because I drafted him by accident. I'm not a fan. And then tight end wise, we've definitely got some options here. I've already kind of shared earlier why I like some of these guys down here. And then we are going to need another running back at some point. So we'll do some kind of combination here. Can't do an 8, so these guys are out. Yeah. We will do some kind of combination here. One of these receivers is going to be a Vegas or Ram. I would have taken Trey Tucker as the wide receiver and a Ram as a tight end, but I don't want to have two tight ends with the same bye if I can avoid it. So we will avoid that. No pun intended. Ichivash goes at 188. I would love to get Jalen Wright here. Would be really nice. We'll see what Pure Rain does, and then we'll make our decision. He goes Jalen Wright. So instead, I'm going to go ahead and grab K. Dotton, and we'll finish off. That'll be done at tight end. And now at this point, we are running back, wide receiver to finish off this draft. Oh, let's see. We don't need another one of those. I don't know. I really like me some Kareem Hunt down here. You know what? Let's do Raheem Mostert, Las Vegas Raider. Random, I know, but the dude does have some juice, and it's a weird way to stack Geno Smith, but there's a little bit of hidden value by doing it that way. So at this point, my ideal wide receiver is Jordan Whittington. I think if there was an injury, I think he takes the wide receiver 2 spot before Tutu Atwell because he's more of a specialist. So that's kind of how I'm going to choose to play it. Fantasy Dog, drafting prowess is added to my I have a plans. It's all about having a team you like. Yeah, I think you just got to make the best decisions you can, right? And just try and see how things play out. Having a plan is good, and then being able to adapt and adjust on the fly, kind of makes it, that's really the challenge, right? Mostert every year has next gen mile per hour top finishes. He does. Yeah. I mean, the guy's still got some juice. So I don't mind having him on a team. I've sprinkled him in a little bit. I'm not getting crazy on him, but if Genty goes down or maybe he's not as good as we think, we just got to throw some galaxy brain ideas out there. He could be a guy that has a lot more value than we realize. So I like taking shots on him. He's kind of a fun pick. And if you're going to get a guy in around 17 as a 5th running back on a team, if he's going to have a spike week, he's the kind of guy who could because he's got the juice to do it. Even if he ran the ball, carried the ball 7 times, 5 of those 7, could get him 75 yards on a touchdown, so that could be enough to get some points out of him. Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that out. He's not usually drafted, which makes him a real gem. Yeah, it's unique because if he pops off and he's maybe the guy you need in the fantasy football playoffs, he's going to be extremely unowned, which makes him a very rare pick to have in your team. And I like that. I like having that upside. All right. And the last pick here, we're going to do Jordan Whittington. So let's recap the team. We have Jaden Daniels, Geno Smith, Matthew Stafford at quarterback. Running back, we have Chase Brown, Jaylen Warren, Ramondre Stevenson, Javonte Williams, Raheem Mostert at running back. Wide receiver is CeeDee Lamb, Devonta Smith, Deebo Samuel, Jaden Reed, Keon Coleman, Rashad Bateman, Trey Harris, Jordan Whittington. Tight end, Trey McBride, K. Dotton. We did get a chance to stack Matthew Stafford with Jordan Whittington. We stacked Geno Smith in a weird way with Raheem Mostert. And then Jaden Daniels stacks with Deebo Samuel. We do have some bringbacks in some weird ways. We definitely have the Dallas, Washington game 17 with Javonte Williams and CeeDee Lamb going against Jaden Daniels and Deebo Samuel. So that could be a fun bringback. We have some Cincinnati with, Arizona with Trey McBride and Chase Brown. We have some Green Bay and Baltimore. We have some Philly and Buffalo. So we have some different ways we can, kind of play this out. So don't hate it. Don't hate it. So that's going to do it tonight for me in terms of drafts. I think that means I've got 49 more of these things to do for Best Ball Mania, but I'm going to draft some other tournaments as well that I continue to draft off stream and do as many more on stream as I can as we keep kind of going through this. Definitely getting in as many tournaments as I can to finish this off. I should be on again tomorrow night, and we'll kind of keep rolling. I do need to identify these last few teams. But we're definitely getting there. We're getting towards the end. We've still got 3 solid weeks of drafting to do. And so I definitely want to make the most out of them. But I appreciate everybody that jumps in. If you do not if you don't mind, throw a like on the channel, share it, subscribe if you haven't. We'll see what we can do to build this up. Draft together, right here in Underdog Fantasy. And it's my favorite place to draft, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it yourselves. And hope to see some of you guys tomorrow night, my friends. Thank you again, Fantasy Dog, for the love. I really, really appreciate you stopping by, my friend. I hope you have a good evening. I hope you have an awesome Sunday. I'm going to take my parents to church, make sure they get to the airport so they can fly back home to Ohio. And then we will try and end the weekend on a strong note with some great drafts. So have a good evening and see y'all tomorrow.